The Cultural Revolution of Milwaukee's Southside neighborhood from primarily Polish inhabitants to Mexicans is evident due to the reformation of many cultural landmarks and customs, thereby creating a unique and diverse community.
The Polish immigrants began to arrive in Milwaukee around the 1850s. Factors that influenced the Polish migration included better economic opportunities and religious freedom. When peasants were freed from their homeland, and due to commercial agriculture and population boom, any available land was exhausted and turned the peasant farmers into migrant laborers.
Otto von Bismarck was the first chancellor of the German Empire. Von Bismarck was determined to change all the inhabitants of Prussia to speak the German language.
Due to severe military laws, every Polish youth was forced to serve in the German army for 4 years.
Bismarck's Kulturkampf was a cultural struggle that began in 1871 when an anti-Catholic campaign was launched into effect where bishops and priests were exiled or imprisoned. Many Catholic Poles decided to move to America in search of better opportunities.
The major Polish settlement was in the south side of Milwaukee. Milwaukee offered the Polish immigrants an abundance of low-paying entry jobs. The majority of the Poles were common laborers, factory workers, and shopkeepers.
The Polish immigrant wave started arriving here in about the 1880s. They had to fill in some place on the south side what was available.
Nearly all the Polish immigrants were practicing Catholics. After Bismarck's attack on their religion at home, many Poles were eager to create a new religious community in the United States.
St. Stanislaus was founded in 1866 and became the third Polish church in America and the first in Milwaukee. St. Joseph's Basilica was founded in 1888. The basilica was built from the material from the Chicago Post Office, since the Chicago Post Office was being demolished due to unstable construction.
And the basilica was built all with the hands of the Polish people that were moving here in that time.
Father Grutza paid $20,000 for the material. The material was 20,000 tons, and it took 500 railroad flat cars to deliver the material to Milwaukee.
Polish communities were known for two things: big churches and small houses. St. Joseph's Basilica was a reaction to a desire for the Polish needs to stake their claim on the south side of Milwaukee. The Polish reformed the single house into a Polish flat, or as we know it today, as a duplex.
Small lots, and they were so small that when their relatives began to come in from Poland, they couldn't expand the houses backwards, sideways, anything. So what they would do is they'd build up the foundation of the house. They'd lift up the house, the basement area, and they'd add bricks and cement blocks and everything to it until the basement area, you'll see the area that we consider to be the basement is about yay high. And then you see a door, and that's a whole nother apartment down there, and they use that for their relatives.
Built those homes in order to save money. This was a way of actually generating revenue because you could live in one unit and rent the other units out to other people.
The response to the German Grand Avenue Mall in downtown Milwaukee was Mitchell Street, with its many department stores and venues for entertainment such as the Majeska Theater.
The Polish groups maintained a high profile for decades.
During a time of economic prosperity, these industries, including canneries, would send labor agents down to Mexico or down to border towns and offer anybody who wanted a job passage north, housing inside the company complex, and in time they would kind of move out from the area around, say, Pfister and Vogel into this neighborhood. That goes back to the 1920s.
Many Mexican immigrants lost their jobs during the Depression and moved back to their homeland. During World War II, the Mexican community on the south side began to grow once again when workers were drawn to Milwaukee to work in tanning companies, factories, slaughterhouses, and foundries stimulated by war production. On August 4, 1942, the United States conducted a temporary intergovernmental agreement for the use of Mexican agricultural labor on the United States farms.
The Bracero program brought millions of Mexican guest workers to the United States. Mexican peasants were desperate for income. and were willing to take the jobs at wages scorned by most Americans. The Bracero program fed the circular migration patterns of Mexicans into the United States.
Mexican immigrants worked in low-skilled positions in factories, which gave little pay and often resulted in Mexican workers required to work in several jobs to support their families.
Work for a period of time. So we would come to Wisconsin, Kenosha, Wisconsin, and we would work in the fields in Kenosha. We would pick cucumbers, onions, tomatoes, and potatoes. And then we would go back in time to pick the cotton in Arkansas.
In late August of 1967, the Fair House March took place in Milwaukee, where African Americans were met with violence by whites on the south side of Milwaukee. Mexican immigrants were able to settle in Milwaukee's south side, relatively unchallenged by Polish Americans.
It's been a lot, much more kind of peaceful, quiet, kind of getting together of all the different people of different nationalities. It seems like you haven't seen that uproar, that kind of tension.
There were other cities that had an emerging Latino population like Milwaukee, but some cities were not as successful. Through the 70s and 80s, there were 45 documented riots between Latinos and whites across the United States. One case was in 1984. Riots in Lawrence, Massachusetts began, where protests and acts of violence against the new Latino groups who were uprising in the city.
In this city, like other cities, you always see the Latino population next door to the Polish population because they have that many things in common. And it really worked out for them.
And when you think about those two cultures, different languages than English, working class, beginning on the entry level, heavily Catholic, large family, hardworking, Madonna Czestochowa, Madonna Lady Guadalupe. There's some real common ties between Poles and Mexicans especially. So I think that would tend to ease the transition.
With the growth of the Hispanic population in the south side, it caused the Polish Americans to move into the suburbs, and this is known as white flight.
So through the years, as the neighborhood changed, the clientele changed, so some of these high-end stores moved away. The Grand moved away, Schuster's moved away, Gimbel's moved out of Mitchell Street, and instead there were stores that catered more towards the new people that were moving in, stores that would have the girls' dresses to celebrate their quinceañera ceremony.
When Polish departed from the south side, the existing church organization shifted to work with the Mexicans newcomers. Mexicans have a strong national, cultural, and social identity maintained through the Catholic Church, which were similar to the Poles. Due to the large population of Latinos in the south side, many churches like San Stanislaus served the Latino community by offering bilingual services. The south side was being reformed by Mexican Americans to feel more at home.
Many Latino businesses emerged to serve the Mexican community needs for the growing population, such as El Rey, Tres Hermanos, Conejitos Place, La Perla, y Los Comales Taqueria. El Rey's sole purpose was to bring Mexican products to the people of Milwaukee, which reformed Milwaukee's Southside community. The Villarreal family started one of the biggest Hispanic-owned corporations in southeastern Wisconsin. El Rey's corporation has stretched over the Southside with 4 new locations. Since the North American Free Trade Act, known as NAFTA, came into force, the migrant factory has exported millions of Mexicans to the United States.
The Latinos have been absolutely sensational for our economy in the sense that they are doing today what many of the Eastern Europeans did years ago. They took the jobs that other people wouldn't take, and as a result, the economy kept rolling along.
About 11% of Mexico's population lives in the United States.
Immigration laws have been more strict over the past years, and in response, strikes have occurred nationwide and in the city of Milwaukee as well. Poles and Mexican Americans reformed the South Side by uniquely shaping the neighborhood with their distinctive culture and customs, constructing a community unlike any other.